Have you ever had one small thing happen and within about 30 seconds your brain has turned into an absolute disaster? Someone doesn't text you back. That's always the example I use. And your brain says, they're upset with me. Your boss says, can I talk to you tomorrow? And immediately I'm getting fired. You make a mistake and think, I can't do anything right. Or maybe you walk into a room, somebody looks at you and your brain decides they're judging me. Here's the problem. Those thoughts can feel completely true in the moment. But one of those things I work on with my patients is learning that just because you think something doesn't automatically make it true. Today, I want to show you a CBT strategy or cognitive behavioral therapy strategy that can help you slow down, examine what your brain is telling you, and come up with a thought that's more balanced and actually supported by the evidence. Hi, I'm Robin Trivette. I'm a board-certified psychiatric mental health nurse practitioner, and I've earned my doctorate of nursing practice from Duke University. And on this channel, I use my years of experience in psychiatric mental health nursing and mental health care to help you better understand mental health, medications, treatment, and practical skills that you can actually use. And today, we're talking about CBT, or cognitive behavioral therapy. But don't worry, I'm not going to give you a therapy lecture. I want to actually show you how to use one of these skills. So let's start really simple. Something happens. You have a thought about what happened. Your thought affects how you feel, and how you feel can influence what you do next. Here's an example. You text someone you care about. 3 hours go by, no response. That's the event. And now your brain says, they're really mad at me. What happened emotionally? Maybe you become anxious, maybe embarrassed, maybe angry. Now what do? You check your phone. You check again. Maybe you send another text. Maybe, are you okay? And then, did I do something? Or maybe you decide, fine, I'm not talking to them either. But here's the interesting part. The original event was simply, they hadn't responded yet. Everything else came from the meaning your brain attached to it. Now, I want to clear something up because I think this is where people sometimes misunderstand CBT. Changing your thoughts does not mean walking around telling yourself everything is wonderful. If somebody don't text you back, I'm not asking you to say, they haven't answered because they love me so much. That's not CBT. That's just making up a different story. We're not replacing a negative thought with a positive thought. We're trying to replace an automatic thought with a more balanced thought. There's a difference. The first step is actually noticing what your brain said. And sometimes that's harder than it sounds. You may notice the emotion first. Suddenly you're anxious or angry or embarrassed. Stop and ask, what just went through my mind? Maybe I'm going to fail. She doesn't like me. I'm a terrible parent. Everybody noticed that mistake. Something bad is going to happen. Don't argue with it. Just catch it. I sometimes think of this like taking a thought out of your head and putting it on the table, and now we can actually look at it. Now we investigate. Not how strongly do I feel this, but what do I actually know? Let's go back to your text message. Your thought is, they're mad at me. What is the evidence? I call this putting your thoughts on trial. Well, they haven't responded. Okay, that's evidence they haven't responded. Is it evidence that they're angry? Not necessarily. What else could explain it? They're working, they're driving, they're sleeping, their phone is elsewhere, their phone is dead, they saw the message and forgot to answer, they're overwhelmed, or yes, they could be upset with you. That's possible too. CBT isn't about eliminating possibilities we don't like. It's about recognizing I don't have enough information yet to know which explanation is true. That's a much more accurate thought. Sometimes our brains make the same kind of thinking errors over and over. One is catastrophizing. Something goes wrong and your brain immediately jumps to the worst possible outcome. I made a mistake at work. I'm going to get fired. Another is mind reading. I know what they're thinking about me. Do you? Or are you guessing? Another is all or none thinking. If I can't do this perfectly, I've failed. Another is overgeneralizing. One bad date becomes nobody is ever going to want me. One difficult day becomes nothing ever goes right for me. And here's a big one, emotional reasoning. I feel like I'm a failure, therefore I must be a failure. Your emotion is real, but the conclusion your brain draws from that emotion may not be. So let's do a different example. You make a mistake at work. Your automatic thought, I'm terrible at my job. Okay, let's investigate or put that thought on trial. Have you made mistakes before? Probably. Has everyone you work with made mistakes? Probably. Do you also have evidence that you're competent? Have you helped people? Completed projects? Solved problems? Received positive feedback? Then maybe I'm terrible at my job isn't actually the most accurate description of what happened. Or more balanced thought might be, I made a mistake. I don't like that I made it, but one mistake doesn't define my overall ability. I need to figure out what happened and correct what I can. Notice what we didn't say. I'm perfect and everything is wonderful. We acknowledge the mistake. We're just not turning one mistake into an identity. One of my favorite questions to ask when somebody is being incredibly hard on themselves is, what would you say to somebody you care about if they were in this exact situation? Because it's fascinating. A friend makes a mistake and we say everybody makes mistakes. Figure out what happened and try again. We make the same mistake and suddenly it's, I am an incompetent human being who has never done anything correctly in my entire life. Why are the rules different? Sometimes the balanced thought is simply speaking to yourself with the same accuracy and fairness you would give somebody else. Now, here's a question I think is really important. What if the thought actually is true? What if somebody really is angry with you? What if you really did fail the exam? What if you really did make a significant mistake? CBT doesn't require you to deny reality. Then the question changes. Instead of, is this thought true? Is the way I'm thinking about this helping me respond effectively? Maybe I failed this test, therefore I'm stupid and I'll never succeed, becomes, I failed this test, I'm disappointed, now I need to figure out what went wrong and what I need to change before the next one. Same reality, very different response. So here's what I want you to try this week. When you notice a strong emotional reaction, stop for a moment and ask yourself 4 questions. Number 1, what happened? Just the facts. Number 2, what did my brain immediately tell me about what happened? Number 3, what evidence do I actually have for that thought and what evidence might not support it? And finally, number 4, what's a more balanced way of looking at this? Not positive, not perfect, balanced. You can even write it down. Sometimes just seeing the thought on paper makes it much more easier to recognize just how much your brain added to the original situation. One of the most useful things CBT taught me is that we don't necessarily have to believe every thought simply because our brain produced it. Some thoughts are accurate, some are partially accurate, some are based on fear, some are based on old experiences, and some are your brain trying to fill in information it simply doesn't have. The goal isn't to never have another negative thought. That's not realistic. The goal is to pause long enough to ask, is this actually true? What do I know? And is there another way to look at this? Because sometimes changing the way we interpret a situation changes what happens next. If you would like more videos where I actually walk you through CBT and DBT skills you can use in your everyday life, subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments, what's something your brain tends to automatically assume? I may use some of those examples in our next CBT video. I'm Robin Trivette. Until next time, be kind to your mind.